Hello, I'm Assistant District Attorney Darren Allemand. Among my duties at the Jefferson Parish DA's office, I have the honor and privilege of assisting our District Attorney Paul Connick with putting together our package of legislation every year. We are very active each year in putting forth legislation to improve our criminal justice system. Louisiana strives to ensure that all victims and witnesses of crime are treated with dignity, courtesy, and sensitivity and respect, and that the rights of victims and witnesses are honored and protected by law enforcement agencies, by prosecutors, and by judges in a manner no less vigorous than the protections afforded the criminal defendants. As prosecutors, we fight to protect victims' rights not only in the courtroom, but also in the Louisiana legislature. In recognition of Victims' Rights Week, I would like to talk with you briefly about legislation that our office has put forth in recent years. In 2017, our office and Representative Pat Connick, now Senator Pat Connick, put forth legislation which extended domestic abuse statutes to cover same-sex couples to ensure that everyone, regardless of romantic preference, has the same protections under the domestic violence laws. That same year, our office assisted Representative Helena Moreno, now City Councilwoman Helena Moreno, with legislation that created new criminal provisions relative to crimes committed against dating partners to parallel our domestic abuse statutes. This legislation ensures that non-cohabitating couples receive the same protections from domestic violence under Louisiana law as cohabitating couples. In particular, this bill was very important in ensuring that teenage girls of high school age are protected from domestic violence. In 2018, our office and Representative Joe Marino put forth legislation which gave a much-needed technological update to the Louisiana statute prohibiting harassing phone calls to include communications by text messaging or by other types of messaging. That same year, our office, along with Representative Polly Thomas, put forth legislation which amended both public records law and victims' rights law to ensure the privacy of victims of sex crimes, human trafficking crimes, crimes against juveniles, and domestic violence crimes. That same year, our office also assisted the United Way and Representative Patricia Smith with legislation that strengthened penalties on domestic violence crimes. In particular, creating a new enhanced variant of domestic abuse battery and dating partner battery, where the offender intentionally inflicts serious bodily injury upon the victim. This legislation also requires stay-away orders for individuals charged with felony domestic violence crimes and individuals convicted of felony domestic violence crimes. In 2019, our office and Representatives Robert Billiot and Joe Marino put forth legislation regarding crime victims' reparations, allowing for potential financial aid to the victims of crime to assist in rebuilding their lives. This legislation prohibits the denial of financial aid based on a victim having an unrelated prior conviction and ensures that all crime victims are treated equally and fairly under the law. That same year, our office and Representative Sam Jones put forth legislation to ensure that someone who murders a victim, such as a spouse killing a spouse, will lose all legal authority over the disposition of the victim's remains. In 2020, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, our office continued its pursuit of victims' rights legislation with Senator Pat Connick, putting forth legislation eliminating parole eligibility for the crime of second-degree rape, formerly known as forcible rape. This was based on our belief that a rape victim who courageously participates in the criminal justice system already has to tell his or her account of what happened to him or her to the police, to our prosecutors, and should the case proceed to trial, to a jury of 12 strangers. And we believe that the victim should not have to relive his or her trauma yet again at a parole hearing years down the road. That same year, our office and Representative Joe Marino put forth legislation which once again strengthened domestic violence laws, creating new enhanced variants of domestic abuse battery and dating partner battery to address situations where the offender uses a dangerous weapon and situations where the offender both uses a dangerous weapon and intentionally inflicts serious bodily injury on the victim. This legislation also treats domestic abuse and dating partner battery by strangulation as a crime of violence and extends our domestic abuse statutes to cover grandparents and grandchildren and to better address co-parenting situations. That same year, our office and Senator Gary Smith put forth legislation which significantly overhauled Louisiana's protective order laws. This legislation, among other things, 1. Authorizes the issuance of a criminal stay-away order even if a defendant is unable to make bail or is not granted bail for the purpose of preventing defendants from harassing their victims from behind jailhouse walls. 2. The legislation expands GPS monitoring as a condition of bail for serious crimes. And 3. The legislation provides that a criminal stay-away order issued as a bail restriction or where the defendant cannot make bail or is not granted bail shall remain in effect for the entire time the criminal case is pending. We would like to thank all of the hard-working men and women at our legislature. Thank you for watching, and we are all honored to serve you.